Brandon.
And I'm your host, Aaron.
How are you doing today, Aaron?
I'm okay. Today was kind of boring. I came to a conclusion that there's a video that I want to put together in regards to
That'd be cool.
a PC.
Nice.
So, yeah. Anyways.
I might actually need a new PC because despite what mine's capable of doing, I think it's crapping out.
You mentioned that, yeah.
I will say, when I first got it, it is a pre-built, which depending on where you get pre-builts from, that could be a good thing or a bad thing or whatever. I did also get a cheaper one just based on affordability.
Yeah.
And
when you originally got it, which it's been quite a few years now.
Yeah.
You didn't need it for much.
No, I didn't, but now I need it for editing and stuff, and although it gets the job done to an extent, I'm kind of pushing it too hard.
You could have a smoother experience.
I could. And with this computer as of now, I should probably start doing one video, record one video, edit the video, get it all done, and then go to the next one instead of doing what I've been doing lately, which is just recording as much as possible and then editing as much as possible.
Right.
But my computer doesn't want me to do that. So yeah.
It's really just a storage issue, but
it
again,
is.
With a new PC and some, components that we can pick out to make things run faster and store everything.
But at the same time, I could also just save up and maybe just do what you're doing.
That would be a great idea.
That would probably be a better idea. But I could still keep this one just for rather if I could figure out a dual PC system or whatever. But
what I would recommend, and this is more just because of all the research I've been doing to put my PC together, I'm getting kind of like a PC builder brain.
Yeah.
Almost. I don't know if that's going to be temporary or not. But you can always just rather flip it. So sell it, or you could always salvage any salvageable parts that it has.
It probably has a lot of good salvageable parts.
I wouldn't say a lot, but a couple.
I was being generous. He's right there. He can hear you.
Because it's not like an NZXT type pre-built. It's like a cheap, get it off of Amazon kind of pre-built.
Well, no. It came from an actual, pre-built company.
And who was that?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Oh, you brought up your day. I was just going to mention my day. Although I was able to get everything done right up until I had to clock out, it wasn't as satisfying because it was just one thing on top of another. And then there's some coworkers who don't pay attention to what time it is because they stay later. So they expect that I'm going to stay later. So they give me more work to do, which I'm not supposed to. But on the bright side, a new office chair came in for me. So I'm excited about that. But I have to put it together, so that means tomorrow, which is a Friday, which is the busiest day of the week for us, I have to find time to build the chair. Which is fun. And my boss wants me to go out into the warehouse and do work, which I don't really want to do, but...
Well, maybe if you happen to find a slow period, or maybe just put it together during your lunchtime after you've eaten, and then put the rest of it together next week.
Maybe. But I kind of want to ease into the episode, but I do want to mention something. So I've been re-listening to the first couple of our episodes, just on the side.
Okay.
And it was merely just curiosity, maybe if I missed something or if there's something that I wanted to touch upon. And there were a couple key notes that I wanted to bring up, some important, some not as important. One of them is purely it's not important at all, but first off, I wanted to mention when in our first episode, we talked about the whole Until Dawn thing.
Yeah.
And we mentioned how in the movie, it's a little obvious, like on the nose, about the whole Until Dawn part.
Right.
And we mentioned that in the game, it's not as on the nose, but because, like I mentioned before, I'm rewatching John Solo play the game. There is a part in the game where Emily, I think her name is, she's like one of the of the game. They all kind of are, but she's like calling out for help on a radio, and there's this guy on the other end who tells her like, okay, we're coming, you just have to hold on a little longer. And she's like, well, how long? And he's like, I don't know, until dawn.
Yeah, but
um
because I think now that you're saying that, I do remember that part of the game.
I
But
don't.
I would still argue, from what I could remember, that it was more tasteful in the game. Like, it just felt more organic. Whilst
Yeah.
at least the way they did it in the trailer, I could be wrong. Maybe when the movie comes out and there's more context, so on and so forth, I could be wrong. But at least the way that they threw it in the trailer just was like, really?
Yeah.
Like, maybe it could have just been as simple as them not putting that in the trailer and it just feeling more organic when it was said in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also found out why I recognized the director from that original teaser, and it turns out it's the same guy who directed the Shazam movies.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that makes me feel any better about the movie.
And it's funny that you do bring up... Oh, were you done with all of your notes?
No.
Okay. Well, then I'll
Well,
get back to my...
I will say, I definitely had way more, and I can't remember all of them. The one is coming to mind, and it's the one that I think about a lot. Like, I don't know why I think about it so much,
Okay.
but during the first episode, me and you got a text, and you asked me about the text, and you didn't take it out of the episode.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I was just sitting there thinking the whole time, I'm like, why did you leave that in there?
Oh, no.
It's okay, we all make that mistake.
I was more worried about that for the last episode, because there were so many times I like interjected asking you a question and we could have easily just paused the recording.
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't even think of that. I do. Oh, shit. All right. Well, what's your next note?
I feel really dumb because like I know I had a list and I told myself I should write them down, but I can't remember them. So I might bring them up in another video.
Okay.
But should I mention what we're talking about?
Well, I do have a couple quick things.
Oh, okay. Oh, there was something I wanted to talk about, but it's not about previous episodes. Oh, and there was something on the side that I wanted to bring up too, and it's very random, and it kind of just happened like yesterday.
Okay, well, so what I was going to bring up is, I think it was yesterday. We're recording this on the 6th. Yesterday or Tuesday? One of the two. This week, we got 2 trailers.
Yeah, we did.
We got...
That was one of the things I was going to bring up.
So we got Jurassic World Rebirth.
Yeah.
Which... So I remember when there was like when there was like leaks about this and like early... like people had seen glimpses of the trailer earlier in last year and stuff like that. That a lot of people were like, "Oh, this actually looks like an interesting Jurassic Park movie because it looks like it's kind of returned to form." And I was like, "But it's still called Jurassic World, you know?"
Is it?
Yeah, it's Jurassic World Rebirth.
Oh.
So I was just kind of curious, like, okay, but yeah, the trailer looks very. It doesn't look. It looks like something new. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it looks. It doesn't have the same big dramatic energy, like action movie energy that like the Chris Pratt movies had.
Yeah.
It almost kind of has something that's like as like ambitious as I believe it's Jurassic Park 2 that I'm thinking of. And then just kind of like maybe some horror elements to that. I I use the word horror
Yeah.
like very lightly because the as you typically do with Jurassic Park films, but similar elements from like the first movie,
Yeah.
but it just has a more grounded nature that I like a little bit. Obviously not too grounded. It's a story about dinosaurs in the modern age.
Yeah.
But something I didn't pick up on it in this viewing of the trailer, but I heard something about how they were doing the dinosaurs differently this time around.
I don't know about dinosaurs, but I know about a dinosaur.
So maybe we're talking about the same thing, but I just heard about like how they're not doing the same trope that came from like a lot of illustrations that the original Jurassic Park movie inspired their dinosaurs off of, where dinosaurs are always depicted to have like thin skin and be very muscly and like you could see their skin hugging like their muscle and like bone structure and stuff.
Oh.
But because dinosaurs realistically, scientifically have been shown to be more fatty and
Yeah.
have like loose skin and as like a giant animal would.
Oh, so you're saying that the dinosaurs are more scientifically accurate?
Yeah, essentially. But
Oh yeah, that's not what I was going to bring up.
okay, but but more specifically, like a whole trend of like ways that dinosaurs were depicted, whether it was on illustrations. I can't think of the artist's name, but he used to illustrate dinosaurs, but he always made them very like thin skinned and
Mm,
muscly looking, which is where the dinosaur we think of comes from.
gotcha.
And all of the Jurassic Park movies have done it like that so far.
Right.
But allegedly, this movie's going to flip that, which it was hard to. I think the T Rex, if we got a chance to see the T Rex, would have been kind of like the proof of that.
I'm curious
But-
on if you saw what this movie's introducing.
What do you mean?
So, kind of like what they did with.
I saw the trailer.
Okay, so I'm curious on why you're not bringing it up. But like how the Jurassic World, one of the tropes was that in each movie it introduced like a new mutant dinosaur thing.
Right.
This new one is introducing the D-Rex. Have you seen the D-Rex? It's
No.
so it like walks on all fours and its front legs are kind of like they're like arched versions of the back legs of a T-Rex. It looks like this big mutant. It doesn't even look like a dinosaur.
And
And it's what I thought you were going to bring up when you mentioned horror, but it's like they're introducing it kind of like a horror creature.
was that in the trailer?
That's in a trailer that I mean, I haven't seen the full trailer, but I saw a trailer on TikTok and it showed I think it's called the D-Rex.
So I'm pulling it up now. Are you talking about this thing?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And it stands maybe like a story tall, maybe a little taller than one story.
3D skull based on what the heck is that?
Some people called it the xenomorph of the Jurassic Park universe.
Yeah, it looks very alien,
Yeah, it's
like extraterrestrial looking.
it's like a hybrid of like multiple dinosaurs. Like not just like one or two.
That's a trope I'm getting tired. Like I didn't see the most recent Jurassic World movie,
Me neither.
but that's a trope I got. Like, okay, wait. So, yeah, because there's 3 Jurassic World movies prior, right?
Yeah.
So I saw the first Jurassic World a couple times,
Yeah.
and that had the big white T-Rex that could like camouflage and stuff.
Yeah, the one that was very reminiscent to the dinosaur from the Ice Age movie.
Right.
Yeah.
That big pale dinosaur.
Yeah.
I did like the one they did in the second movie.
The raptor.
Yeah,
That one was pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah,
don't
it
get me
was
wrong.
like-
I actually liked the T-Rex thing from the first one, especially when you could find out that it could camouflage.
Yeah, but something about it was so. It was like too sci-fi for me.
Oh,
Like it did.
I don't think
it doesn't feel like a dinosaur that would exist or that could exist. Like obviously
yeah,
that's
I
not
guess.
the point, but like the whatever that raptor thing was in the following movie, not only was it like a scarier dinosaur to me, I thought, but it looked like it could be a real dinosaur.
true. The only thing that I disagree with, like, because I personally liked the T-Rex from the first one,
Mm-hmm.
it was more of just the environment that I didn't like because that was very high tech and whatnot. But
Yeah.
the hybrid that really got to me, the one that bothered me the most, and I think it was in the first Jurassic World movie,
Okay.
but they're like the pterodactyls with T-Rex heads.
Pterodactyl with T-Rex heads.
I'm like 99% confident that's a thing in the Jurassic World. Rather the first or the second movie.
Well, I do know there is
They-
a pterodactyl. There is a dinosaur in like the same family as the pterodactyl that has a more reptilian looking head or
Listen,
dinosaur-y looking
No,
head.
I'm pretty sure these were pterodactyls with T-Rex
I
heads.
think you were dreaming, dude. That
No.
sounds like a trick. Like
I-
like you had a bad reaction
I
to.
promise you that's something from
Like
the movie.
you ate a bad Jurassic World movie and it gave you some food poisoning and you shot out some weird ass dinosaur.
You might be right, but who knows? But yeah, so the new one, like, it's kind of following that trope, but it's trying to make more of like a horror creature.
Yeah, but just from that picture I looked at, it looks very.
You know what it kind of looks like? What's the dolphin with the big bubble on its head?
It's not a dolphin; it's a whale.
They look
It's
like
a beluga.
it looks like a dinosaur, like beluga.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the. What's the? You would know this. What's the demon in Doom
Oh,
That's-
God damn it!
that like jumps really far? It's like in all the. It's like the one that you always see. You know, it's like you see the imp, which is like the one above.
are you talking about the
So it's like there's like the
Revenant?
zombie-esque things that walk around. There's
You're talking about the
imp.
big ones with
Yeah.
like the big white domes on their
Yeah.
head. Yeah, because in the first game they had like no eyes, and then the second game they had eyes.
Yeah, and in the new game they have like armor.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. I always want to call them one thing, but I'm always wrong.
I'm
I'm
it's
terrible
that
with
one, though.
names, but yeah, it kind of looks like that, but it just walks on all fours and it's 4 times the size.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I could be. You know, it might end up being it. It doesn't look interesting. The dinosaur or the D-Rex or whatever the hell that thing is. It doesn't look interesting. It doesn't. Honestly, it doesn't. But it could be interesting.
It could. We'll see.
I really just like normal dinosaurs. I think dinosaurs, as they are, being thrown in that.
I think
kind
there
of
could have been a
scenario.
really cool way to make a horror movie with dinosaurs. That 65 million movie, I felt like had the opportunity to do that,
I
and
still
they,
haven't seen that yet.
it's a good movie, but I was hoping for like what I'm talking about, like a horror movie
Right.
that revolves around dinosaurs. I really thought that's what that was going to be, but it wasn't. It was more of like a survival movie.
Yeah.
It was almost like a better Jurassic Park movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it takes place at the beginning of.
But enough about dinosaurs.
Yeah, the next trailer.
Probably the one that we could probably talk about a lot
Oh yeah,
because
You might
it's
hate
not
me
like
for
we
saying it.
haven't talked a lot about the MCU so far in these few
No.
episodes.
We kind of. I did for like the second episode, but
We went on a relatively long preamble. I think we've talked more about the DCU and the
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking about like movies that I did and didn't like from the MCU,
Yeah.
but yes.
So the Fantastic Four, the First Steps is what it's called.
Yeah,
We've already shared our opinions about this movie prior to the trailer.
mm-hmm.
I want to ask your thoughts first.
So you might be surprised when I say this, because I was pretty surprised myself. I'm fucking stoked.
Dude, finally.
So so just like some text or whatever.
For background.
Yeah, I was super nervous about this movie because the MCU has given me no reason to be excited for almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say there are things that I still would change. Like I think it would make the movie better if these changes were made. But like with what they have, I'm surprised on how excited I am for this movie.
Okay.
Like I saw Ben or The Thing,
Right.
and I was like, dude, no fucking way. He looks great. And a lot of people are saying this, and I agree with them. He literally looks like he was taken straight out of the panels from Jack Kirby's drawings.
Yeah.
And everyone is exactly how I wanted them to be.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I personally still would have changed some casting, but still, it looks great. And the whole them using like an alternate reality to suit this very retro like vibe going on, it's just very reminiscent to like old school Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
It's the first time in a long time where someone's able to use the theme of family without it being cringy. Johnny he was one I was kind of worried about too, but I'm surprisingly excited for him.
I
Like
think the hair's weird.
the hair is kind of weird.
Like not only styling wise, like it doesn't shape his head very well.
I think
And the color's just a little like
it just looks unnatural.
there's a world where there is a more natural blonde they could have pulled off
Yeah.
and it'd be more believable. Maybe it's because they just wanted him to look more like a traditional Johnny, or they wanted him to have the same hair color as his sister, but
See, but I care less about the blonde hair and just more of like how he acts.
yeah.
But
I think it's like they're going so far to make everyone look a particular way that
But that's the thing is like it's been so long. Despite a conversation we had about the Silver Surfer in a previous episode, excluding that, this movie I think might be the first thing that Marvel in a long time that Marvel has like decided, you know what? I think the closer to the comics, the better.
yeah.
Because I kind of feel like they're using more material from the comics than ever before.
Right.
And then we even got like a quick glimpse of Galactus.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And he like looks like Galactus. And he's being played by Ralph Ineson, which is just nuts.
Who?
You know, in Nosferatu, the guy who played the Doctor?
No way.
Yeah, so he's going to have that super deep voice.
He's playing Galactus?
Yep.
Dude.
So,
I'm
okay.
so stoked.
So, on my end of this, I was already pretty excited for Fantastic Four because I knew this is the direction Marvel should have, like, instead of trying to shoehorn in new characters from every direction and try to make them make sense. I understand in the comic books, like, there's a one dimension where everyone exists in, and then there's other dimensions, so on and so forth. But I think it's okay that they, because they've introduced the multiverse, it's okay to like tell new stories in their own dimensions and stuff, and then figure out how to cross them later.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way you can tell them any way you want to.
Yeah.
You don't have to rely on anything else. Like in this dimension, I'm not entirely sure if it's the case, but the Fantastic Four could be like this world's equivalent of the Avengers. You know, like they're the big guns
They kind of
of
seem like it, like the way they present the Baxter Building.
right, and like they're the ones that people go to and like take pictures of, and they're the stars, and you know, it's like the whole world revolves around them, and there's no Avengers, which is cool.
Yeah.
Um, the casting choice I was worried about was Vanessa Kirby, who's playing Susan Storm.
She was one of the ones I was worried about.
Not so much that she's like a bad actress, but there's like Sue Storm is like the very she's like the glue almost. Or she's like the mature, very level-headed character in the group.
Yeah.
You know? Like when Johnny's being crazy, she can like tame him down.
Mm-hmm.
When Reed is like overthinking and overanalyzing and being a nerd, she can just be like, dude, like be a person for a second.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then she obviously like has her own close relationship with Ben as well. But the only time I've ever seen her is her playing like a, I don't know how to explain it. Just,
Damsel in distress.
not so much that is like a character that's just very intentionally corny. Like the best way I could explain it is like her character in the Mission Impossible franchise. She just plays like this, oh, I'm like this very alluring, interesting woman who's got all these mobsters working for her, but I don't know, something about it, it's like intentionally corny.
Didn't she play a similar character in Hobbs and Shaw? Wasn't she in that movie?
I don't remember that movie very well.
I'd never seen it, but I'm pretty sure she's in that movie.
If she is, I don't remember. And it wasn't memorable enough, so I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But,
Yeah.
so, I don't know. Like, of all the actors that they've picked so far, she's the one, like, for me, that I'd be like, Like, show me what you can do, you know?
Yeah.
You were worried about Pedro playing Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
But I had seen like a post and someone talking about it before, and I told you this. I essentially relayed the same thing to you, where he's dynamic enough as an actor where he can pull a very similar energy to. He could rather make his own very to the book kind of Reed Richards that we want and we're looking for, which it looks like he is. Or he could also bring a very similar type of energy that RDJ as Tony brought. You know?
Yeah.
He could, like, not that he's going to, but he could. And if Robert Downey Jr. wasn't coming back as Doctor Doom, which that's the one casting choice I'm still not 100% on board with, and I know you're not as well.
Yeah.
But let's
It's an
say
understatement.
hypothetically he wasn't coming back, Pedro would have been a great stand-in for that role as Reed Richards, as like the really
Yeah.
smart, witty character, but he'd be witty in a less sarcastic way and more in like a nerdy, charming way.
Yeah. I suppose. I don't know. Something about it I don't think will ever sit right with me. I think Pedro Pascal is a great actor.
Mhm.
I've loved him in a lot of things. But unfortunately, I think he's one of those actors who they continuously cast
Mm-hmm.
because he's so popular. And not because he's the best choice for said character.
So you're saying he's like typecast, almost.
Yeah, like because so far, I mean, I've never had an issue with any of the roles he's played, But the two so far that I wouldn't have casted him as if I had the ability is Joel Miller and Reed Richards.
I think he does a great Joel.
He does a good Joel. But I can think of like 3 other people who would have done a better Joel. And I can think of one person who I think should have stayed as Mr. Fantastic. And someone else who, almost anyone else who could have played Susan. But
I still know who I would have casted as the Fantastic Four.
I don't think I have a problem, like, because there's a chance that I always forget his name, Joseph Quinn.
Yes.
So I think he might be okay as Johnny. I still would have casted someone else. I think I'm completely fine with the guy who they casted as Ben.
Ralph. No, I almost said Ralph Ineson. He is Eben Moss. I don't know how to say his last name. Backrack?
Whatever.
Battridge?
My only gripe is that they didn't do anything with his voice. Like in every version of the thing, whenever he goes from Ben to the thing, they change his voice. I was going to bring
that up too. Yeah, because he was in an interview. I want to say it was Jimmy Kimmel, and essentially he was on a talk show, and the host had asked him about his preparing, and he had mentioned something about like he was working on a voice, if I'm remembering that right. But there's no voice. It's just him.
Yeah, it just sounds like his voice.
There's no altering, at least not that I can tell or anything. And it's just like I would say that's the biggest thing I have an issue with so far from the trailer. I don't mind what the thing looks like.
I think he looks great.
I think if it were me, he probably could be a bit bigger. Like I wish he towered over the team a little bit.
I think he's a very comic book accurate size because the thing's never really been like giant.
True, but maybe just a little bigger.
I would say, yeah, me for like personal preference. Like I kind of liked the size of the thing from the weird 2014 movie
because he's even. If I remember, I'm actually gonna look at it right now. He's 6'1". So like making him maybe like a good like 6'3", just to show that like he got big from the transformation. Just like I don't know, something about it. I just could have done maybe with but it's a very minor gripe. It's more so his voice. Like he just sounds like a regular guy. Like anyone could have played him.
But here's the comment that I think you might be mad at me for.
Uh-oh.
I think there's a chance that I might be more excited for Fantastic Four than Superman.
Whoa.
Yeah. I kind of got shocked too because one, it's MCU. So like I'm never really that excited.
Okay.
But I think based on my reaction when I saw the Fantastic Four trailer compared to when I saw the Superman trailer, I think I might be more excited. I will say, based on some of the things that I know, like the Silver Surfer, I know for a fact that those are things that I'm going to be irritated by right off the bat. But something about like this new world that they're introducing, a very, very close comic book accurate depiction of the Fantastic Four, which by the way, I don't care what anyone says, that should have been a list of movies that we put on that episode were the Fantastic Four movies.
The first two.
Yeah, not the 2014 one.
Yeah.
The first two, because people gave those ones shit, but those were great. Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
We could talk about that another time.
Mm-hmm.
So fucking good. And close to the comic books. Like, there was really nothing wrong with those. But, like, I don't know. I think I might be more excited for this movie.
Well, you know what? All three Superman, Fantastic Four, and Jurassic World come out in July. So
Well, Fantastic Four and Superman come out on the same day.
do they? I don't think
That's been a whole thing lately. They've been talking about how Marvel stated they want to release Fantastic Four on the same day as Superman.
I don't think that's true.
I've been seeing it everywhere.
Fantastic Four First Steps comes out July 25th, the end of the month.
Oh, someone. I keep
Yeah.
seeing it everywhere saying that they wanted to publish it on the same day.
No,
But still
that
the same
That would
month?
be a terrible idea.
That would be a
Because
terrible idea.
if one's better than the other, then the other one, whichever one does poorly, will do really poorly because the other one's, triumphing in sales and stuff. Unless they're lucky and it gets memed on and it becomes like a Barbenheimer thing.
I don't know.
But DC and Marvel on the same day? No way. No way.
But yeah.
And Jurassic World Rebirth comes out the 2nd. So that will be the first one to come out. It'll be Jurassic World, Superman, and then Fantastic Four.
Well, I guess that definitely gives a good amount of time to like see Superman, comprehend it, and then get ready for
I'm probably going to see Superman a couple times.
I don't know if I'll see it that many times in theaters.
No,
It-
that's like the way to see it.
It'll probably have to really impress me the first time for me to want to go see it in theaters again.
I
want to
think-
go see Man of Steel again in theaters.
I think Superman's going to be the movie this year.
We'll see.
Fantastic Four, I have high hopes for, but Superman's going to be good. I just know it's going to be good.
Dude, Galactus.
I know, that's a big deal.
That is a huge deal. I'm so fucking mad that Galactus looks like he's going to be so comic book accurate, and for some fucking reason, we're getting the Doctor Doom that we're getting. How does that work? How do you get such a beautiful movie, such a beautiful rendition of both the Fantastic Four, Galactus, a somewhat not as accurate version of Silver Surfer, but that one could be like tolerated, but Doctor Doom?
Okay, so I have 2 notes. I don't know why I just did it like that.
What are you, Eminem?
So 2 notes. One, remember when in the first episode I was talking about Until Dawn and it not having any like visual style? That's like interesting.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four has what I'm talking about.
Like it
Not-
has a style or it doesn't have a style?
It does have a style.
Oh, okay.
But it's like not just like the sets. Not so much that it's like, oh, it's themed like, an alternate version of the 60s or whatever. It's like the filter and the way it's shot, like it's got character, It's
Yeah.
got like a style.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted in Until Dawn. I wanted like a visual style. So like you could like take a frame from the movie and be like, ooh, that's Until Dawn.
Yeah.
But you take a frame from this movie and it's like it's a generic horror movie with, young adults
Yeah.
all getting killed. Like, okay, I haven't seen that before.
Yeah.
But and then my second note about Doctor Doom. Someone I saw like an IGN thing, and they were like, "Oh, they showed all this stuff. They even teased Galactus. Where was Doctor Doom?" First off, knowing Marvel, they'll go one of 2 ways. They'll rather show everything but Doctor Doom and save Doctor Doom for rather a surprise, or it'll be like a post-credit scene because they're using him to build up subsequent movies.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll just end up showing him in a trailer,
Yeah.
to be like, oh, this is the real bad guy of the movie, which would be lame. But I just had to make it a point, and I threw it in the comments like, oh, maybe for once we could be a surprise. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with,
Honestly, I think Galactus would have been great if they saved that as a surprise.
yeah, I mean, it seems like the one thing, unless they show it in a different trailer too, it seems like, what's his name? John Malkovich? Am I thinking of that name right? Do 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 do. Why is the A-Team song coming up in my head? Yeah, John Malkovich. There's like a clip of him in the trailer, and he had like long hair.
Yeah.
And people have been talking about like a couple different villains he could be. Maybe he's like his own version of Mole Man. Whoever he is or whatever he is, it's not clear in the trailer. It's like, maybe keep it that way.
Yeah.
Like, what's so wrong with that? Maybe just do a variation of that same trailer in the near future and then just let the movie come out.
You know, it actually, I just like thought of this. It would have been so interesting if like throughout the whole movie, like let's say they didn't tease Galactus.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the whole movie, you're kind of curious on like who's actually like the antagonist of this movie. Like we get a lot of the Fantastic Four, but you're kind of confused on like what is this all leading to?
Right.
And maybe they see like a couple sites of like something like outside of the planet or whatever, but it's still very vague. And then like towards the end of the movie, you see a glimpse of like maybe one of the Fantastic Four members or maybe someone like just some random side character who's looking out into the like a big open space. And it's not a close shot, so it'd be very like the fans would know, but it's not like super on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
But you see this glimpse, just this like shiny thing off into the far distance, and it's kind of just very reflective, and you're kind of thinking, is that the Silver Surfer? And then that little glimpse just disappears, and within a like a millisecond after it disappears, a giant foot the size of a building just goes boom. And then fans are like, one, that was Silver Surfer like seeking out and like scouting out Earth, and then giant foot Galactus. That would have been the coolest reveal. And then fans would have just been like standing up in their seats, and then they would have seen him and heard him and just thought like, oh my god, Marvel finally fucking did it. They did something right.
Right.
That would have been so cool.
Yeah.
There's also a trope that Marvel does in both comics and in live action that always makes me kind of confused. So the Celestials.
Okay.
They're massive.
Yeah.
Like we saw them in the Eternals. They're fucking massive.
Yeah.
But in the original comic, well, I understand why they did it in the older Jack Kirby era. But like even now, they depict Galactus as like not that big. Some people say that he can change his size. Some people say that that's like his natural size. But damn it. If he's this like godlike celestial, wouldn't he just always be that big? Like, what's the need to like walk on a planet you're about to devour?
I don't know.
Like imagine that scene I was just talking about, like that hypothetical scene, but instead of it being like in an open field, it was like you're seeing it up in the sky, and when that thing beams up, you just see a face. Just that'd be terrifying. That would be so scary.
Yeah, but all in all, I'm kind of just relieved that you're excited for it, because
I'm actually really excited.
You were kind of just like, yeah, we'll see. But now, like,
you know what? Screw it. We're gonna hop into the main topic. We're 47 minutes in, and we haven't even gotten remotely close to what we're talking about today.
But before that, we're actually going to take a 5-minute break, and we will see you right. All right, Brandon. So what is today's topic?
Today's topic, for those of you who might not remember from the last episode,
or didn't listen to the last episode,
or didn't listen to it because you guys no, I'm just kidding. We are actually kind of taking a turn with what we usually talk about, and we're going to talk about comic book based stuff. The absolute universe of DC.
And when he says absolute, he means like it's called the absolute universe.
Just like
not like it's
just like how Marvel has like the ultimate universe,
Right.
DC has now the absolute universe, which, oh, so that actually is another note that I wanted to make, but I guess it's more relevant that I bring it up now. The last time we like vaguely spoke about this topic, which I think was the last episode, you mentioned
Yes.
that the absolute universe is kind of like doing the same thing, where it's like, what if they were made now, like the characters?
Yeah, I mean,
But
vaguely.
thinking about it, I mean, even though there is still a theme to the absolute universe, I don't think that statement holds, only because, so like when Marvel did it years ago with the first time when they introduced the Ultimate Universe,
Right.
that's like exactly what it was. They were like, oh, what if like we brought the characters in now? But DC has already done that. And they even stated that that's what they were doing when they did it. And that was DC's New 52.
Right.
When the DC New 52 came out, it was like, yes, everything's kind of like the same, but like modern. Like, what if all of this is happening
Right.
now? But the Absolute Universe doesn't really focus on that, and it's more focused on the theme of which the whole universe itself is based on.
Well, there is kind of a distinction though, because not yes, the New 52 was like we're modernizing the DC universe and the characters and their origins, so on and so forth. But there's a difference between modernizing a character and reinventing a character, basing it off the premise like, what if we wrote the character right now?
Yeah.
There's it might be a fine line, or it might be difficult to distinguish, but there is a difference between the two.
Yeah, but for the sake of just... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and to finish that thought, they're also attacking it differently. And you brought this up previously too, whereas instead of just going purely off of that premise, they're doing something with each character. Like they're taking an aspect, like a critical aspect of the character
Right.
away from them to kind of give them a prompt on how to reinvent the character.
Right. So just for the sake of this conversation, especially for those listeners who aren't familiar with the Absolute Universe, rather you kind of know it's a thing or you have no idea what we're talking about, to give you like a clear rundown, there's a huge event that happened recently in the DC universe as far as comic books go. And during said event, Darkseid's like the Thanos of DC, but like worse in like so many ways.
Like bigger, badder.
Yeah, like the Thanos of Thanos, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he had anyone to be scared of, it'd be this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so Darkseid found this way to like get a lot more powerful, and I won't get too into it because I don't want to like make the people who aren't familiar with what we're talking about lost. But essentially, it led to him getting really powerful, like more powerful than ever before. And he went up toe-to-toe with the Justice League as like a whole, not just like the original 6, but like Justice League Unlimited, which is like every hero on planet Earth. He went up against all of them at once, and he lost and died.
Mm-hmm.
But in his death, with his newfound omnipotent power, his essence created a tear in time and reality, and he was able to create his own universe.
Right.
Where in this universe, he is like omnipresent. He exists everywhere and nowhere all at once. Like he is God in this universe.
Right.
And so when he rewrote the world, and the world itself was developing with characters who are, there's like, they're bound to exist. Like there's no if, ands, or buts. Like, they
Yeah.
have to exist because they've stated that Superman and Darkseid are like two sides of the same coin, one for good and one for bad. So, but he made it to where if these characters were going to exist, he was going to take something away from them. So for Batman, he took away his wealth. So this version of Batman grew up not being rich. He grew up with the same parents and everything, but like the Waynes are not rich. They're very normal people.
Right.
Kal-El, or Clark Kent, he was born in a version of Krypton that wasn't as hopeful, and their society was very different, which led to him being slightly different. Like, he's the same overall. Like, his parents raised him to be the same. But no matter what situation he ends up in, he's always in a situation where there is no hope. There's no faith. It's like it's hopeless.
Yeah.
And like, he ends up in a version of Earth, which is like the Earth, which needs that kind of hope. But no one sees him as that beacon, but he's trying to get to that point. And we'll dive more into these characters specifically, so it'll make more sense.
Right.
But for Diana, because they wanted to focus on the main trio in the beginning, for Diana, it was her sisters. This version of Diana was not raised in Themyscira with her mother and her sisters and all that stuff.
Right.
This version of Diana was actually sent to hell as a baby, which is nuts. Like,
Right.
that's such a weird turn. Like, it's not like, oh, let's send her with her uncle Ares. It's, let's just send her to like the worst place in the universe,
Yeah.
which is hell. Well, depending on who you ask, Apocalypse, Darkseid's planet, is the worst place, but he doesn't exist in this world, so Apocalypse doesn't. But anyways, so that's the whole premise. It's like these characters who something's taken away, and they have introduced other versions of other DC characters like Martian Manhunter, The Flash. But those aren't those are still very different from the traditional versions, but we're not going to talk too much about them. Overall, just for Martian Manhunter, I don't really want to try to describe that. It just, me personally, doesn't really make any sense. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not really going to get into it. For The Flash, they're mainly focusing on Wally West. And he's like a teenager, like 17.
Yeah.
Barry Allen is his Uncle Barry. Like,
Right.
they're setting it up very Spider-Man like. Like, it's Wally West as a teenager. He lives with his Uncle Barry. And he gets introduced to this entity that apparently is not the Speed Force. But it gives him the exact same abilities. And it functions the same way as the Speed Force. But apparently it causes him immense amounts of pain and agony. But again, I don't know much about it, and they haven't really dived too. Like, they haven't released much about it.
Right.
But
Yeah, but let's, because those haven't even released yet, Martian Manhunter and The Flash.
yeah, we're just
Let's-
focusing on the trio.
Right.
Yeah.
So I personally have a lot to say about Batman.
yeah,
more
that's what I was going to say.
specifically.
I was going to say, like, let's dive into each character and say what we do and don't think about
But
each
I
one.
think because of Batman, I kind of want to go from like what we have least to say to what we have most to say. So I was going to say, let's start with Superman.
Okay.
Because this version of Superman, like you said, like they try to attack Superman, even though I don't necessarily see where they're coming from with it, from the issues that they've released, but they've tried to go this direction of Superman, but you take away his humanity. And again, like I said, it doesn't seem like in the comics that's how they're approaching it.
Yeah.
because, you know, we find him working in like a coal mine and also hiding in a coal mine. And, you know, they're already building up to him being like a man of the people,
Yeah.
but just going about it in a more stoic way than a traditional Superman would. Which again, like he has his you know, he still has humanity.
Yeah.
Maybe what they mean by humanity is he doesn't see himself as human. So like his like humanity as like his, you know, he doesn't think of himself as human or as part of mankind or one for mankind. But when I hear they take away his humanity, I think of like a cruel character.
Well, yeah. See,
You know?
I agree with you on that, because I think when it comes to this version of Superman, it's purely an advertisement thing. Because
Yeah.
they advertise Superman as, what if you had a Superman without his humanity? But that's not the case. Based on how the story's being told so far, it's more like,
It's just Superman, but he doesn't have a green card, or he doesn't have
that's
citizenship.
yeah, that's one way to put it. It's basically like, what if humanity,
He didn't have a passport to get here.
well, yeah, but I mean, like, what if this version, it's more like the other way around. Like, what if humanity just didn't have Superman
Right.
early enough in a time when they needed him,
Mm-hmm.
and like he comes later on in life? Because so that is something that I should probably mention real quick. So
Like, if anything, they could have said, similar to like Diana without her sisters, they could have said Superman without the Kents,
yeah, like without like his,
or Superman without Earth, or
right.
something like that.
So it would be, I guess it would be kind of hard to advertise, but so to kind of give you like a quick rundown on like how different this Superman is, he comes from a version of Krypton that's very diverse, and not in a good way. Like, there's a lot of discrimination.
It's
Between-
segregated.
Well, yeah, so like there's an upper class that really looks down on the lower class.
Mhm.
And unlike the main continuity, the House of L is well respected. They're scientists, they're politics, and like, you know, everyone rather respects them or admires them or whatever.
Right.
They're kind of like the Waynes of
Yeah.
Krypton.
They're like high acclaimed.
Right.
Yeah.
But in this world, they're declassed, and the Kents, or sorry, not the Kents, the House of L is just a very small house of the three. There's Jor-El. I always forget Kal-El's mom's name. I don't know why. But
I don't know.
yeah, there's her, and then there's Kal-El. It's a very small house. And Jor-El is a miner.
Right.
Like, and he is a scientist, and he has a theory
Mm-hmm.
that this strange infection that's taking over Krypton is going to be the end of Krypton. Which, when you see the infection, it's this green liquid, which is this this dimension's version of kryptonite.
Yeah.
Instead of it being a stone, it's like green lava,
Right.
basically, which is kind of cool. Like, it looks like this neon lava.
They're probably going to use that to rework Metallo in some way.
I was gonna say they were gonna like combine like Metallo and Atomic Skull,
Oh yeah, maybe.
but anyways, so Jor-El, he's trying to figure out how to stop this infection. His wife, she's trying to find a way off Krypton because she knows it's gonna end, but no one wants to listen to them because they're lower class.
Right.
And they haven't really shown how it happens, but they
Also, the symbols mean something different too.
yeah. So the symbols,
So the S, or like the symbol of hope, is like a working class symbol,
right?
whilst the upper class have. I know it's from pre New 52 comics, but I just forgot what it was. But there's a sun symbol that some Kryptonians wore in like older Superman comic books that the upperclassmen in this universe wear.
I have a theory on what they're gonna do with that upper class, but I'll
Okay.
get to that in a second. But
Like the Eradicator or something.
I was actually gonna say their version of Apollo.
Oh.
I think that they're gonna introduce a new version of Apollo where he's a Krypton or a Kryptonian, and he's like, because he's from a upper class, he finds himself better than Kal-El.
Interesting.
I don't know, but
I was saying Eradicator because their triangular gowns kind of have that same triangular
Oh.
shape of like the Eradicator's cape and stuff.
true. They might,
That's
but
just where my mind went.
But yeah, so they've shown this version of Kal-El. He's like, he doesn't participate in his school because he knows like they kind of did like this Albert Einstein thing in like issue 2. They showed that he doesn't want to participate because he knows everything they're talking about.
He's like too smart for his own good.
yeah, he's like the smartest kid in class. But what I'm assuming is going to happen is that Krypton is going to get to the point to where it's like in shambles and everyone's trying to escape. Martha called. Why do I keep calling her Martha? That's not her name. Kal-El's mom. She's like she tried telling everyone it didn't work, but it's at this point there is no hope. It's rather they send Kal-El off or they all die together.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be what happens, but they haven't really gotten that far yet. But so yeah, he is older. He's not a baby when he goes to Earth, and it's unclear exactly what age he goes to Earth at this point. But
Yeah, I don't think they've gone that far. Because
but
they kind of did a time jump between him being a kid and him being found on Earth.
right. But so another few things that they changed was because he's not born on Earth, or because he wasn't a baby on Earth, and because he's not genetically different from other Kryptonians, they're reworking how this version of Superman is going to be like a supercharged Kryptonian.
Mm-hmm.
So the suit he wears is alive. It's like this mechanical suit, like skin suit, and it turns out it's the pod he came in.
Okay.
So the pod he shot into Earth in transforms into his suit, which is like the skin tight metal suit.
Yeah.
The cape itself is made out of nanites that are like self-healing. They can transform. It's like a Spawn cape, basically. I'm not a huge fan of
See,
that.
this is where I start to fall off with this version of Superman.
Yeah, so, but that's their way of kind of being like, he can do everything because like his suit helps him do some of those things. But when it comes to the actual like Kryptonian part of him,
Mhm.
so it's there, but because he wasn't on Earth for so long,
Mhm.
his suit is catching him up. It's absorbing solar radiation and it's forcing it into his cells.
Right.
Kind of like what the black suit did in after his death with Doomsday.
Right.
It's like it's
See, that I'm okay with
Yeah.
because it restricts him.
oh, and he doesn't know how to fly yet. He just super jumps everywhere.
Right. But I'm okay with that change. I'm okay with like a suit that's like solar charged because it it restricts him. It like it makes it so that there's a challenge for
Right.
Superman in the beginning.
Mhm.
Obviously he's Kryptonian, so like against a human or a group of humans, he could hold himself pretty well.
Mhm.
But he's still not like god tier Superman.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the suit and like charging him. It's similar to like what they tried to do with the Flash in the Flash movie, where
Mhm.
like he has to maintain his metabolism and his like what was it, like his blood sugar and stuff like
It was
that.
essentially just the calories he took in because
Right, calorie intake.
Right.
That's what I meant. Yeah. And so that's interesting. But like the suit talking to him and having like an AI, I don't care for.
Yes.
I don't care for the shape shifting aspects of it.
they described the AI not only as like an assistant, but his mom didn't want him to be alone when he traveled across the universe.
That's just
I don't know. I think it's just like overdone, and it's hypocritical for me to say because I've written characters who like have like a second entity with them.
See, but I think that could have done more sincere by making it to where the suit wasn't the pod, like the suit was an accessory, just like a lot of space sci-fi stuff where like a suit is like integrated with like an escape pod or something like that for safety purposes. It would have made sense to me that like the suit was in the pod and he would like go, there would be a point in the story where he would go to the pod and like sit in it, and when he would sit in it there'd be like a virtual version of his mom or like a pre-recorded version of her
Yeah.
that he would like, similar to like Isaac and Nicole, when he would like watch back the video feed just so that he could like get a sense of Nicole. He would like go into the pod and he'd watch this recording of his mom just to get like a feeling of like,
It would also be kind of reminiscent to Kal-El speaking to Jor-El, like the AI who replicates the face of Jor-El. It would kind of be reminiscent of that as well.
right. But also it'd be just kind of interesting because this version of Superman is already invoking some kind of hope into like the miners and stuff like that. It would be interesting to know that there's a way, not only is he recharging physically from his suit, but he has to go to the pod to recharge mentally.
Yeah.
And his hope is his mom.
Yeah.
I just thought that would have been cool because that also would kind of reassure us that he's still Kal-El and he's still the Superman we know because of his relationship to Martha Kent in like the Prime reality.
Something that I think also would have been kind of interesting, it would have been a little smaller, but for like the sake of the suit, it would have been kind of cool if the characters who are being introduced to this version of Superman, like Lois Lane and stuff, which, by the way, I'll get into that in a second as well, they're convinced it's the metal suit that's why he's indestructible. But then there's a point where he takes it off and they're still shooting at him.
Yeah.
But it turns out that the metal suit literally just takes away the bounce of anything that hits him. So like bullets, instead of bouncing off and possibly hitting other people, the suit just like takes that energy and the bullets just like fall to the ground.
Okay.
And then when he takes it off, then his like whole body is just like bulletproof. But anyways, I don't know, that I thought would have been interesting. But getting into Lois Lane isn't a reporter. She's actually an agent for the Peacemakers, who they're like the law enforcement of this world, or at least this sector. It's like a private organization, but instead of it being like Peacemaker that you guys are familiar with, like the John Cena Peacemaker, it's like a whole organization of peacemakers
where they're like they're a peacemaker, like a soldier,
right? And the one leading them is Brainiac, who in this world isn't like an alien, and he's not like this giant floating skull. He's like a guy behind a computer, and is like he's got like wires connected to his head.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen his face yet, but all we know is that he's just a guy behind the computer. But he does have little miniatures of cities. Some people are like, oh, maybe this is a Brainiac who has collected cities, which wouldn't really make any sense. Or if he just like makes little models.
Yeah, similar to like a ship in a bottle.
Right.
Yeah.
But like his version is making like cities of places that he's predicting exist or something like that.
Or maybe that he's seen.
Right. Like maybe he's traveled somewhere and he saw like an alien city or something like that.
Right, because we had like a theory that he was like, what they were going to introduce is that he's going to end up being like a side, like a right-hand man to a character like Darkseid or General Zod or something.
I really want them to introduce General Zod.
And if it was like General Zod or either character, maybe like he's seen things through them.
Yeah.
So that he's like remembering them and putting them, like making those models that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's just speculation though.
But yeah, so Lois, she's an agent for them. She's like one of the upper class agents. And they showed in the most recent issue, which was like issue 2 or 3, they showed that she handcuffed herself to Superman so that he couldn't leave.
Yeah.
She thought that maybe it would prevent him from like trying anything stupid. But if anything, it just got her in more trouble because he grabbed her so that she wouldn't die from what he was about to do. But he jumps
Right.
and he like takes off, and he grabbed her so her arm wouldn't rip off.
Yeah.
But so they're like flying through the air, and he lands somewhere miles away, like nowhere near where they just were. And she's like kind of irritated at him, but he like breaks the handcuffs like with ease. And she's like, "How did you do that?" And he's like, "Haven't you like guessed it?" He's like, "Your human technology can't hold me," or whatever. But he did it in a very nice way. Like, it's hard to explain. But she starts documenting her experience with him, but she does it in a very journalistic way.
Yeah.
And she starts talking about how like maybe they're wrong about him, and how he, even though he is an alien, something about him feels more human than anyone she's met before. And how he was like soft and sweet, and like he took care of her when they were handcuffed together and stuff like that.
Right. And
that she's kind of regretting being assigned to go after him.
Right.
So it was like very Lois Lane ish, you know?
Like she just immediately becomes infatuated with him.
Right.
Yeah.
And it could possibly lead to like a romance between the two.
Yeah.
But kind of like a Romeo and Juliet thing, to where it's like not supposed to happen because they're supposed to be enemies.
But yeah, it's like an enemies to lover.
Right. And then she got interrupted by someone, but yeah, I just thought there's still a lot of like, I personally see it kind of like how I saw the Zack Snyder Superman. Like, he starts off as this one version of Superman, and he's going to lead into a more familiar version later on down the line. So like, I still have hope for this Superman. And I think he's still very interesting, and there's a lot that I'm very curious about.
Yeah, it's more so with him that there's just like subtle things.
Yeah.
Like whether it's just like something as small as like, oh, the word humanity is just like comes off a little weird, or like I'm not a fan of like the AI. And
Yeah. I kind of like being brought back to a version of Superman who doesn't know how to fly, because we get to kind of re-witness that cool event all over again.
And it's kind of reminiscent of like Superboy.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's also got like really long hair, which is kind of nostalgic to like 80s Superman type thing. So, but I don't know if we have much more to say about Superman.
No.
So we'll probably transition over to Wonder Woman.
Yes.
So this one, Aaron and I have a lot of good things to say.
Well, she's the best one.
No, by far.
She's the best one.
I literally don't have anything against this version of Wonder Woman.
I think everything was like super tasteful. I think it was like a completely different path that immediately brought us to the Wonder Woman that we know.
Yeah.
She just looks a little different.
Yeah, like everything, like there's so much about her that's different, but no matter, like, it kind of proves that no matter what you do to this woman, she'll always be Wonder Woman.
Right.
So to give you guys a quick rundown on her origin, this version of Wonder Woman, like we said before, she was taken away from Themyscira as a child right after she was created. Because for those of you who don't know, Wonder Woman was sculpted, not born. But she was given to the sorceress Circe in hell.
Right.
And Circe raised her from a child. And Circe also kind of had this redemption arc, because raising a girl in hell kind of allowed her to, like, that motherhood kind of brought her back to the good side.
Yeah.
And it showed her what it meant to, like, have hope
Right.
for the world. And so she raises this strong... Oh, and I just want to note this real quick. She has a Hercules moment. So when she's a baby, she's like sitting on this bed that Circe crafted, and this demonic serpent makes its way into their little shack.
Oh, okay.
And Circe, right as she turns around to like face the serpent, she notices that Diana's like squeezing it and like breaking its neck as a baby.
Right.
So it's very like Hercules like.
Yeah.
Or Heracles if you want to be more specific. But so yeah, and she grows up to be this very large, powerful woman. Like this version of Wonder Woman, they made like 6'2". Like she's huge.
That's kind of been a common trend with Wonder Woman in the past few versions.
Well,
where
yeah, but
she's much more muscular and much taller.
yeah, so this one's like taller than most men.
Mm-hmm.
She learns a lot of the same things from Circe that she learns from Themyscira in the main continuity, like how to be kind and how to hunt and like the balance between peace and war kind of thing. And one day, during their time in hell, she makes her way to the same beach. It's weird that it's a beach, but it's like a blood beach in hell. That she
blood
makes
beach.
Blood beach. Isn't that what I said?
It sounded like you said blood.
No,
beach.
blood beach.
Okay.
It's like some demonic beach place.
Okay.
I don't know. But she makes her way there, and she finds a man laying on the beach.
Oh.
He's a pilot
Oh.
from not this version. Okay, so this is where it kind of gets weird, and I might be wrong on this, but I don't think I am. But anyways, so he is a World War II pilot, but he died, and he went to hell.
Oh, okay.
And he starts contemplating like his existence because he thought he was a good man, and he thought he was doing good for the world, and he doesn't know why he's in hell.
Right.
But he's found and guided by this beautiful woman who he encounters in hell, and she tells him like all the weird shit that happens there and how life is not guaranteed and it's very unfair to those who do good things. And he was the perfect example, and they start to like fall in love, but they never get like
Is this not Steve Trevor?
No, it is Steve Trevor.
Oh, you didn't say that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was obvious.
Well, I know, but it's just like you went without saying that it was Steve Trevor, so I was sitting there thinking like, wait, is this not Steve Trevor?
No, sorry, it is Steve Trevor.
Okay.
But so they definitely catch feelings for each other, but they never really say it. But she wants to, and this is where it starts to get to a territory that Aaron's not familiar with, but it'll answer one of the questions that we had before. You
can address me that you're not familiar with.
Oh, okay. Anyways. But it gets to a point where Diana wants to give him a gift, which is to bring him back to the real world. Because she doesn't think it's fair that he's there. And there's a spell that she can cast, but it requires a great sacrifice. So, in order for her to cast this spell and successfully get Steve Trevor back to Earth, she cuts off her right arm.
Oh.
And that was her great sacrifice, and it works, and it sends him back to Earth, but it's modern day.
Oh, okay.
And he joins the military in modern day and stuff. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure like they mentioned that he was part of World War II. But anyways.
Okay.
So yeah, she doesn't have an arm.
I haven't noticed that.
Right, because the last time when you see pictures of her, she has both arms and one's got tattoos on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
okay.
When it's reintroduced into the modern world and the Earth is being attacked by this giant demon, Wonder Woman comes on the skeleton of a Pegasus.
Right.
That
she's so badass.
It was a Pegasus that lived in Themyscira, died, and she brought back with her.
Okay.
To the land of the living.
Yeah.
And they're very close. By the way, she can fly. Like, I find it very interesting that she rides a Pegasus.
Okay.
Even though she can fly.
Mhm.
But anyways. But so she encounters the military. She tells them what they need to do, and she basically tells them to back off because their weapons aren't going to do anything. She encounters Steve Trevor again, and he's like, "Your arm, it's back," and it's very weird.
Yeah.
She introduces all these cool weapons that she has because she essentially, this version of Wonder Woman has a pouch. And she pulls out whatever she needs from said pouch. Like rather this lasso of despair or whatever it's called. It's like a very demonic lasso.
Yeah.
Or this giant sword that looks very berserk-like.
Yeah. I mean, her armor already kind of has like a berserk
Yeah.
look to it.
But so like the sword is made out of like promethium
Okay.
metal. And she can pull out potions and stuff. Like as long as she knows what it is that she needs from the pouch, she
Right.
can like pull it out.
Okay.
Um,
It's like a Looney Tunes.
Kinda.
Yeah, okay.
But I think there is still a limit to it. But anyways, so she takes on this demon. She uses her cool lasso, whatever. But then it just turns out that that demon was a scout for an even bigger monster. Like, take Godzilla, make it 3 times bigger, and it has this weird effect to where it feeds off of fear. So it's like pure presence makes people afraid, and then it gets stronger. It has like a very weird like Cthulhu vibe to it.
Okay.
But she fights that off, and she even like broadcasts herself across the news. She tells everyone that she's going to cast a spell, making them all deaf so that they can't hear the screams of the monster. But the way she presents it, it's very hopeful and it's calming, and everyone falls because they are just mesmerized by Wonder Woman. But she mentioned, sorry, real quick, so she has like both arms and one's covered in tattoos.
Okay.
So she mentions that there's a spell that she can cast, and it's very complicated and it requires a lot of blood, but it replaces her arm.
Okay.
So it looks like a normal arm. It's covered in tattoos. It does everything her arm has to. But whenever she loses it, because she can easily just like make it disappear on command, she replaces it with like a weak mechanical arm that she pulls out of the pouch.
Gotcha.
And then she'll recast the spell when she has time.
She can't just keep the arm?
She can. But like there's one point when the monster wraps a tentacle around her arm and she like forces it to disappear so that she could get free. And then she has to recast the spell for her arm to come back.
Got it.
But I'm leaving out a lot of cool detail, but it's really cool. This Wonder Woman is just like, she's a badass. She's super powerful. She still has that like that charm that we all love. Oh, and she also used, in order to kill this giant monster, her sword was cutting through, but she's like, I'm not thinking big enough. Aaron, I kid you not. She pulls this potion out of her pouch. She pours it on her sword, and the sword becomes the size of a mountain. And then she grabs it by the handle and swings it over her. Like, she flies in the air and swings it over, and she lops the monster in half.
Damn.
Yeah. By the way, like, obviously this is Wonder Woman, but she does it with ease. Like, could you just imagine swinging a sword that big over your shoulder?
It's interesting, though, that there's like a weird... Like, there's a weird crafty nature to this Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Like,
Because she's a witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. And it's like she relies on gimmicks and stuff.
But you know what's interesting, though, is in that moment when she's pulling down the sword, she's preying upon her sisters and her mother like she does in the main continuity.
Yeah.
But they're people she's never met. She's just hoping.
That they hear her.
Yeah.
And that, like, they know that she's there.
Yeah. Which is kind of sad.
But it's...
Because she's under the impression they're all dead. But she has hope that maybe that was a lie.
Okay.
Because I forgot who it was that delivered her, but there's like a higher power that delivered her to Circe.
I think it was... oh my god, why am I blanking on his name? Hermes.
Oh yeah, I think it was.
But I just think there's something like You threw around the word hopeful, but I'm gonna reuse the word sincere.
Okay.
Like there's this very loving, um, like she's still like kind of what you were bringing up. Like she's still embracing like her roots,
Mm-hmm.
and she's still very cultured. She has like new gimmicks and new powers now, and because of like being a witch and being from hell and stuff like that. But like I said in the beginning of this portion, like it doesn't matter where she came from. At the end, she still becomes Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Like on paper, the same Wonder Woman
Right.
who can still do everything she could before, who still wants to help people the same way, who still has like the same feelings about people, who falls in love with Steve Trevor and all of it, but it's just with like a new mask of edgy metal
Yeah.
almost. Like what DC Metal tried to do, but better.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just because it's more rooted in like her origin, and it's not so much like a skin.
Yeah. But
Um,
God, she's so cool.
But I definitely think Wonder Woman of those three is the best one so far.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very curious about the Flash on the outside of the three, but again, I'm not going to get too far into that one just because there's really not a lot to talk about.
The one I'm curious about is Martian Manhunter, but it's only because it looks like they're going to be going a very different route aesthetically
Uh-huh.
and like storytelling wise. Because from my knowledge, it turns out we've heard two very different things about Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
Because from what I've heard and looked very apparent from like the art that they released of Martian Manhunter, I heard that this version of Martian Manhunter was, instead of John Jones, it was John Jones,
Mm-hmm.
who's like a detective or something,
Right.
and there's a Martian that like comes to Earth and possesses him, like it's similar to like Venom or something.
No, that's what I heard too.
Oh, I don't know why I thought we had heard two different things, but like it's kind of like it's supposed to be like a cheeky, somewhat funny version of like a cop duo extraterrestrial detective story.
First off, I still don't like that.
But I think, oh, you know what it is? I think, what I think we heard differently is that the Martian doesn't have like a physical form. Like, even though the pictures depict like a very gooey, artistic depiction of like an alien, I think what we heard differently is that you heard he was like a physical, like almost like a symbiote.
Right.
Whereas I think I heard that he's almost like an abstract entity,
Oh,
where he almost like a interdimensional spirit that like
but then he
possesses John Jones,
and then gives him those powers.
kind of like he almost like he the same way a demon would,
Yeah.
with like a host that they're possessing. It's like a spiritual type of alien that's like in his head that like uses him as
I just
a
don't
vessel.
No. I mean, realistically, I don't care for either. At least for Martian Manhunter, and I just don't like the way he looks. Like if you guys look up Absolute Martian Manhunter, he's this weird rainbow
But I think that's just
thing with like one big red eyeball.
Well, not only do I think that's just a part of like that particular artist, but I think that's supposed to just express him being like interdimensional.
Yeah, it's weird. But anyways, back to the original trio. We are going to move on to one of the more controversial ones not necessarily because everyone there's controversy amongst everyone. It's more like everyone has one opinion. Aaron and I have a different opinion
A very different opinion.
about the absolute Batman. Because this version of Batman, like we mentioned before, he didn't grow up rich. He didn't grow up with all this money and what have you.
And you might find at the end that some of the things we suggest are somewhat minor twists, but it doesn't help the fact that we don't like this version of Batman.
There are things that I like, and there's an idea there that I really like, but it's more of an execution thing that I think is where they flopped. But again, it's only us that feel this way. Everyone else, they're like, oh my god, it's like the coolest thing.
So there is one major fix that we've discussed before that I don't want to bring up right now. I kind of want to go through this version of Batman
Right.
and some of the changes that they make, some of the things that maybe we do like or what we know what they were going for, and then some things that we just don't like.
So should I give just a quick rundown of his backstory?
Try to make it, yeah. Try to make
Yeah.
it quick.
So essentially, this version, the major difference is that Martha was a nurse and Thomas Wayne was a teacher, like just elementary school teacher.
Right.
And one day, Bruce is on a field trip with his dad and the other students, and they're at a museum, and the museum gets attacked by thugs, and Thomas dies. And Bruce uses his brains to he spends his whole life learning certain skills and sciences and all this stuff. And when he is 24 years old, which is the current age of Batman, he's not like late 20s or early 30s or anything like that. He's 24.
Yeah.
And again, he's not rich or anything. He's a construction worker, but he's this big, beefy guy because he made it very clear he wanted to be big. So he's fucking huge. He's like 6'4", and he's got like the body of a wrecking ball. But he's like a budget Batman. And he has like all this weird tech that he made in his garage. And
See, that's what they're going for.
that's what they're going for, but it's still like what he builds doesn't make any sense on how he did this without any money.
Right. So, and then also very vaguely to kind of continue where you're leaving off. Another big difference that they're making is that so in the main continuity, Batman, and a big theme about Batman is that not only is like a small part of him kind of what's spread out between all of his villains, but Batman in most scenarios is the cause and is somewhere in the center of the creation of each of these villains.
Right.
But in the absolute universe, the difference is that they're all like his friends.
They all grew up together.
Yeah, and then in some way, shape, or form, they rather become the same persona in a different fashion or like a completely different character with the same name.
Yeah.
Which isn't as important because I could get on board with that to a degree. It's really just based on like how you execute it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is the premise for that is interesting.
Yeah.
And it kind of falls in line with like a more grounded lifestyle and stuff and where all of these bad guys could come from and why he would take it so personally and take it upon himself to like fix these things.
Right.
But so the budget thing doesn't make sense because because you've actually like watched videos and you've kind of gone through the actual books while I've gone even more like summarized like cliff note versions of it because I took one look at that Batman and honestly like I wasn't sold. So I didn't end up reading it. But so this version of Batman, like his dad, right? His dad developed like a type of like malleable technology.
No, he did.
Oh, Bruce did.
So when he was a kid, he was in a science fair, and
Right.
his invention was this thing that could like transform into different shapes, and he presented it by it transforming into the shape of a bat.
Okay, but see, wouldn't that give him away?
Yeah,
Wouldn't it be like, oh,
Immediately.
this kid years ago developed this technology, even used the bat, and then this guy who's using the same technology, making himself look like a bat, is the same age that that kid would be?
yeah,
That doesn't make sense. And also just the technology, it's the same thing. And I know I brought this up to you when we talked about this before. Sam Raimi, when he made the Spider-Man movies,
yeah,
and he made the decision to give him like organic powers and organic webbing and stuff,
right.
his reason was like, yes, Peter Parker is a genius and so on and so forth, but him being a lower to middle class citizen in New York City, he wouldn't have the resources or be able to afford the technology to create a web shooter.
Yeah,
So he gave him organic webbing.
right.
Also, it was an idea that was not stolen, but taken from the James Cameron pitch that almost was made.
Yeah,
But it's the same thing. If this is a budget Batman, he shouldn't have access to this stuff.
well, they kind of have an explanation for that, and it's where it kind of defeats some of the purpose of him being Batman in the first place.
Right.
He steals it.
Yeah.
He steals resources and equipment from like giant corporations, and like when he's working on site as like a construction worker, he'll take resources from the company he works for and the companies that are hiring them
Mm-hmm.
to build his gadgets, and even a building that his company was working on that they bailed on, that is no longer like has any attention to,
Yeah.
he's using as his base of operation on the top level.
But that's in theory, that's very easy to find.
Yeah, especially if
Compared
a
to a-
helicopter was just like flying and
Yeah.
they're like,
Like even
there's a guy right there.
like the Batcave is like this intricately designed thing that's built, underground under a mansion that's miles and miles away from the city, so on and so forth.
and it's got like multiple checkpoints throughout the city.
Yeah, but like a hideout that's like in an abandoned building at a abandoned construction site at the top level. It's like, dude, no,
and
it wouldn't work.
and it's given away in the first issue. So another change in this universe is Alfred. Alfred
Right.
isn't a butler. He never left the MI6, and he eventually turned into a mercenary.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes to Gotham because he was hired on by an anonymous source to take on this vigilante
Mm-hmm.
who's making their way through Gotham, and he just stalks Batman. He doesn't encounter him or anything. He just stalks him for a little bit, and he learns his fighting, and he learns everything he needs to know about Batman. And he talks about how Batman is brutal and almost lethal, but he knows where to stab and where not to stab because he uses like lethal weapons, but he uses them in a non-lethal way.
Yeah.
And then he finally approaches Batman, tries to shoot him in the face with a shotgun, and fails because Batman disarms him. But Batman steals the shotgun, and then Alfred follows him not only to his home and discovers who he is immediately,
Yeah.
because he finds this tall, buff 24-year-old
Right.
encountering his mom at home,
Mm.
which he lives with, by the way, and then follows him to an abandoned building at the very top level, and then encounters Batman again. And the only thing that I thought was a little interesting, so this version of Batman doesn't have batarangs. He has two replacements. He has his ears on his cowl come off and they turn into like daggers, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But his
Because then it makes him look stupid if he takes one out and he throws it or something.
But his other replacement is the shotgun that he stole from Alfred. He turns into a non-lethal shotgun, and the pellets shoot out these little itty-bitty bats. And they will stick into your skin, and they'll pierce your tissue, but they won't kill you.
That's
And he uses it on Alfred, and it like obliterates parts of his skin because they're just stuck with all these tiny bats.
You know, the character of Alfred that you're describing would make a way better Deathstroke.
Yeah.
If they just named him
Slade.
Slade. Oh my god, I almost called him Wade Wilson.
Yeah.
If they named him Slade Wilson and that shotgun blast like took out an eye,
Yeah.
and he would have just been like a very, like, a more grounded version of Deathstroke, but now had like a grudge.
But speaking of which,
Or they could even take they could go the route where like at first he was helping Bruce and then they turn on each other later.
yeah. So speaking of some of his villains that you brought up earlier, so the new rendition of some of these villains who have been introduced so far. So Killer Croc is one of Bruce's closest friends, and he's just a normal, like, big black dude who he owns a pet crocodile, but they call him Killer Croc because one, he's a boxer who owns the gym that Bruce goes to, but they call him Killer Croc because he has a lethal punch and he owns a crocodile.
That's dumb. I'm sorry.
But that's it about him. Like there's not
Yeah.
much to him. The next person that they introduce, he's actually teased throughout the whole thing because he's the biggest bad of the whole story so far, but it's Black Mask. The whole gang, I forgot what they're called, but they're not called like the Black Mask Gang or something like that, but they all wear like that skull black mask,
Yeah.
and they're like terrorizing the city. But Black Mask himself, he's called Black Mask, and he has this weird helmet thing that's like, it's like a big dome on the upper half, but the lower half is like the upper and lower jaw of a human.
Okay.
It's kind of freaky and it's kind of cool, but he's extremely terrifying. Like, he's got all this power. He's very his body is a lethal weapon because he knows how to fight and he knows how to kill people with his bare hands.
Right.
So that's that version of like a villain. And then they introduced in the end of the first issue, they were talking about, they showed a hint of this guy who's very rich and he owns like a whole corporation, and he's getting onto a helicopter, and the pilot is like, he makes a joke, and the other helicopter pilot's like, no, you can't, don't make jokes. The boss doesn't like jokes. That's why they call him the Joker. And he's this guy, and they don't show much, but they show his like eyeball basically in the shadow. But he's like a very serious person. He doesn't make jokes. He doesn't like jokes. He doesn't like anything funny. And apparently that's why they call him the Joker. But
Which doesn't make sense.
But him and Bruce are swapped. He's rich and powerful, while Bruce is poor. That's weird. But the last one I was going to bring up, and it's the one that I'm kind of excited for, is they introduce his best friend, Edward Nygma,
Okay.
who's working in this little shed because he's venting to Edward about something. He's masking it with something else, but Black Mask offered Batman a deal, saying, I'll pay you billions of dollars if you stop being Batman and I can like do my job.
Yeah, but why would he take that?
Well, so I'll get to that. So he's venting to his best friend, Edward Nygma, about the situation, but he's masking it with a different situation.
Yeah.
But he's saying that although it's a sketchy loan, he thinks he could use it to go against the corporation that's giving him the loan in the first place.
So it's just like, oh yeah, give me the money, and then he's got like his fingers crossed behind his back, and he's like,
I'm going to use that money to become a better vigilante and to kick your ass.
okay.
But anyways, while
But
he's...
that's just wealth.
Yeah. So it defeats the purpose of this
Right.
whole Batman. But anyways, but as he's venting to Edward, Edward is working on this robot, and all it has is a head and a set of ribs. But it's like the metal is green and it has like a little purple skull, or sorry, a purple brain hanging out of it. But he's like, what do you think? I'm working on... Oh, and it's got little question marks carved into it.
Yeah.
But he's like, I want to... I'm working on the name, but right now I'm calling it the Riddler. And he's like, why do you call it the Riddler? And he's like, because it can answer any question. And he's like, really? He's like, I could just use the internet. And he goes, no, but this is the smartest thing on the planet. And he's like, ask it a riddle. And then Bruce says a riddle that's very complicated, and it like interrupts him and finishes the riddle for him. But then he's like, so what do you think, machine? And he's like, he won't answer unless you call him the Riddler. And he's like, okay, Riddler, I have this situation. What should I do? And then it gives him advice. And then after that, he gets into his bat suit and he calls Black Mask and he's like, I'm going to take your deal. And then that's how the issue ends. But the Riddler so far is what I feel like that's going to be like an Ultron thing.
That could be interesting. Because maybe not even like an Ultron thing, but it could even just get to the point where it's a similar dynamic where, for whatever reason, he ends up becoming angry and spiteful towards Batman. And when they do start to compete, like brain power and stuff, it's not so much he's trying to outwit Batman. He gets mad when Batman outwits a computer.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we've covered enough. Actually, no. I want to go back to one thing.
Okay.
We were talking about his suit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you brought up his ears becoming daggers.
Yeah.
I think that's stupid. A shotgun that shoots mini batarangs. That's also stupid.
I kind of like that.
And the reason why I say it's stupid is because Batman, Prime Earth Batman, is like a regular sized guy, depending on who's drawing him, height wise. But he's very muscular, he's very skilled, and with his bare hands can like tear a man apart.
Yeah.
And now my phone's going off. Which this Batman clearly could too. Because he's big enough.
Yeah.
Which is like the whole point.
Yeah.
Why give him blades where he can make people bleed? You know, because realistically I understand like, oh, he knows how to stab people without it being lethal. It's like, yeah, but have you seen how big he is and how big those blades are?
They're pretty big.
You insert a blade into like a guy that size into the side of a person. They've got like a 3-inch hole in their side. They're going to bleed out, dude.
Speaking of
And
which,
especially if you go run away. Sorry, I have to finish this really quick.
yeah.
And that's on top of the fact like there's his Batmobile, which
Oh my
is
god.
the size of like, I don't know if you know what I'm referring to. There's a construction truck. It essentially looks like a giant dump truck.
And the wheels are like the size of a house.
It's literally called like a Hulk or something like that.
Yeah.
That's almost what his
No, that's exactly what the Batmobile is. It's just painted black.
right. That's
And a modification, but
it's ridiculous.
uh-huh.
It's overkill.
Yeah.
It's too much.
They're
Similar to how I describe Warhammer to people.
yeah.
Like it's like a 12-year-old boy wrote it.
Yeah. There is a modification where he says like entering sports mode and the wheels widen and the body goes down and then the front like narrows out a little bit and it turns into like literally a Batmobile. So it like can like drive really fast.
But it's still
It's
like
still
a gigantic
fucking-
vehicle.
yeah,
It can't
it's-
even fit on a street properly.
Yeah.
It plows through everything, which isn't discreet at all.
No, not one
Batman's
bit.
supposed to be discreet.
Yeah.
And I mean, him being his size isn't very discreet either. And then the worst one that everyone seems to love so much, but I can't wrap my head around it, is the axe.
Yeah.
Somehow, on his thin ass suit, it has to be thin if that much of his giant ass muscles are exposed. His bat symbol on his chest can be attached to a handle and it turns into a battle axe.
Yeah.
On paper, that sounds like any boy's dream.
Yeah.
maybe if it was a metal version of like a knight Batman, that would be sick. Like he had this big knight, like gothic knight armor, and like on off the front of like a chest plate, like it turned into a blade. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the Robert Pattinson Batman is too, where that's his battering.
Yeah.
But it's also implied, and it shows that he's got like layers of padding underneath.
Yeah. And
There's
it's
a-
like a chest plate. So
yeah,
like,
there's a place for that thing to go.
yeah.
This one, it's like it looks as if it's as thin as fabric, and it turns into a whole battle axe,
Yeah.
which again is a blade. You can't have a non-lethal battle axe. A battle axe will chop a person in half.
Well, see, that's the thing is like, and that also brings another thing that we brought up before. So the first time that he uses it, he goes up against this Black Mask thug who's like a really big guy, and he detaches the axe from his chest, and then he lops the guy's hand off, and then he tells the guy, he goes, "There's a hospital 3 blocks down that way."
No, that's not Batman. Batman would not sever a limb and then be like, go to the hospital.
Yeah, he tells the guy, he goes, he's like, you have roughly like 12 minutes. He's like, I would start running if I were
Yeah, maybe he would like break a leg or something,
you. Yeah.
you know?
But the guy's bleeding from his arm.
Yeah, like he's missing a limb.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's
Like,
for other characters that would have been really cool, but
yeah,
for Batman,
I can name a handful of vigilante characters that would have been like an awesome moment.
Yeah.
But that's not Batman.
Yeah.
And there are cool versions of Batman where he does kill people, but it's like it's one or the other. He kills people or he doesn't kill people.
Yeah,
You can't have an in between where he lops off limbs and he's like, go to the hospital.
I think main continuity Batman, who also they have mentioned in the main continuity that Batman learned every way to kill a person so that he knows what not to do.
Right.
But I think he would be like, did you really need to cut off their arm? Like, was that necessary?
And that's even why in The Dark Knight Returns, when he's older and he's in the mud pit with the mutant and stuff like that, how intense the bone breaking is also very like particular, but it still feels really intense because like, you know, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and he's specifically breaking parts of the body that when they heal, they're not going to heal.
But this is like if, honest to God, I feel like there would be a delusional enough person in real life who'd try to be Batman. They would like damn near kill someone and then pretend like they're cool for it.
Yeah.
That's what this Batman makes me think of. And
yeah.
with all of that to the side, I kind of want to get to, unless there's another note you want to make, I wanted to move on to the fix I think they could have gone with.
Oh, I do. There's one thing I want to say is that this version, they keep acting like this is a fresh idea, but this idea was executed a few years ago of a Batman without any resources, and it was done beautifully, and somehow they tried doing it again, pretending like it's the first time they're doing it, and it's not as good. There's an old, or not old, but it was only like 5 years ago, maybe less, when DC went through their future state phase.
Yeah.
And Bruce Wayne became the Dark Detective.
Mm-hmm.
And it was essentially just Batman with no money. And he wore like a silver cowl and chest plate. And then the rest was just like,
yeah, he was wearing like SWAT riot gear
like
and stuff.
cargo pants, boots, and
A spray painted bat symbol.
and just like knuckled gloves, and he had no gadgets, no vehicles, no grappling hooks, no nothing.
It was fists and wits.
And he went up against the new Batman, who was Thomas Fox, who had all the resources,
all of Bruce's resources.
and he still won.
yeah.
Just using brain, like pure brain power and raw fist.
Like showing who is Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that Batman does die. I don't know if you knew that, but at the end of the story, he sacrifices himself, and
Yeah, because Batman dies on his own terms.
Well, right, but like, and then like the whole media, they made a whole thing about like Batman was Bruce Wayne, and they like ridicule him. Like in on his grave, they make him out because like the Dark Detective was like this bad person. They ridicule him, and Thomas feels like shit because he wasn't there for Bruce the way he should have been. So
Yeah.
but that was such a good story. And then they bring out the absolute Batman. They're like, "Oh, what if Batman didn't have money?" We saw that, and he was badass.
And that's still the wealth thing. And see, similar to like how they did Superman without his humanity, which still is like the wrong verbiage. So Batman, it's not like the wealth thing. I feel like is a big aspect that doesn't really affect this Batman that much, because like the way he utilizes and creates resources is just so, I don't know. It's like they it feels too easy of like a substitute or lazy.
Yeah, I don't think they were really like clever with what they chose to do with this version.
Yeah, and again, like it just feels like factor of cool,
Yeah.
which is not what I want out of Batman. I want things to be clever and well written and stuff, which I just kind of expect.
Yeah.
But so, and that kind of leads me into the changes and what I would call fixes for this Batman.
Like your pitch for the absolute Batman.
And yes, it would be my pitch. Trying to utilize as much of what they have so far.
Mm-hmm.
The first big change that I would make is throughout the whole story, you don't hear anyone's name.
Uh-huh.
At least not his name, not his parents' name. You wouldn't hear any names or read any names. And at the end of like the first issue, maybe there's a scene where someone's talking to him, or he's, for whatever reason, he has to say his name out loud at like the end of the first issue. And instead of him saying, "My name is Bruce Wayne," he would say, "My name is Jason Todd."
Okay.
So we're changing the character.
Yeah.
Or who becomes Batman in this scenario. And at first, like we would work up to the bat look.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe at first he just doesn't have the pointy ears, or maybe he has like a large like cowl and cape that resembles like a blank version of Batman.
So like the whole outfit, just take away the bat part.
Yeah. And obviously like without the tech and like hidden gadgets and stuff. Like you would purely just be going off of like brute force and actual like gadgets, like maybe like a rope with a hook at the end of it or stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
Things that like the old-fashioned Batman used to use.
Or just things that are like real. Like
Right.
just real grappling hooks, real like smoke bombs or stuff
Right,
like that.
exactly. And instead of like this contemplation of like, or this whole thing about like wealth or like Black Mask potentially giving him money, what I think would have been interesting is this version of Batman is, what if Bruce Wayne didn't lose his parents? So this version of Batman is Jason Todd. But Bruce Wayne is still involved.
Mm-hmm.
So, essentially, from a distance, Bruce has like his eye on this vigilante. And this would be a very different version of Bruce Wayne. This would be like a cocky, essentially like what Bruce Wayne pretends to be like when he's Bruce Wayne, is what he's actually like.
Yeah.
But he would have like a dark and grim side to him that we would kind of get like hints of, but it would be for different reasons. It would maybe be like if he was involved with like the mob or something, or like maybe he was like he ended up becoming like a branch of like what the Falcones were doing and stuff like that. And he ended up seeing things that like changed him, or maybe he even like fought in the military or something. I don't know, something. But he's seeing this Batman or like this vigilante from a distance. And he's essentially like he finds a way to like get Alfred, like an actual Alfred, to kind of like not catch him like a Pokemon. Like he would be able to like send a signal of sorts to this vigilante, being like
Like a big random spotlight.
no, something like discreet, like meet me here or whatever.
Oh.
This version of this vigilante goes to Bruce, and Bruce is essentially like, look, I see what you're doing. I get it. You're trying to help the place. That's fine. I can get on board with it. Let me help you. Not let me help you because I want to fix this city. Let me help you because these guys you're going after are an issue for me. Almost like he's a mobster. So let me let me invest in you. So he uses his same wealth he essentially becomes, him and Alfred become like the Lucius Fox to Jason.
Yeah.
He gives Jason I mean, technically all three of them are like Lucius Fox, because like you could still make this version of Jason like intelligent.
Yeah.
Like they were going for this version of Bruce Wayne, where he's like very
Clever.
and scrappy and stuff like that.
Resourceful.
And so he gives like the money and resources to Jason. Jason uses like the Wayne Tower or something as like a hideout.
Yeah.
An actual hideout. And creates gadgets and upgrades his suit. Not to make blades and battle axes and stuff, but stuff that just resembles Batman, but they could make new gadgets.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever.
It's still like work on the whole being brutal.
But visually he could end up looking like the Batman they designed.
Yeah.
Because it's like a younger Jason Todd. He's still 24. He's like, there's a part of him that's like got that young adult edgy or wannabe edge. So he like throws spikes on there. Maybe Bruce is the one who suggests the bat.
Yeah.
Like maybe when Jason Todd's like putting stuff together, he's like, it kind of looks like a bat. And Jason like he like leans into that and he makes him look like a bat. Because he kind of pulls that idea from Bruce. Like, you know, he's scared of bats. Maybe they are too.
Yeah.
And that would also be interesting because now both Bruce and the Joker are two different highly wealthy, you know, powerhouses in the story, but they're both flipped on their heads.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce is now a mobster, and Joker is also kind of like a gang leader or kingpin of sorts, but he's like anti-Joker. But this Bruce, like every time we would see Bruce, like maybe whenever it would cut from Jason to Bruce would be like in the dark in his chair with like, because Batman doesn't, a lot of people don't know this, he doesn't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
But like this version, he would just be like twirling like a whiskey in his hand, like in the dark. And Alfred would always be talking to him from like a distance. Like, oh, can I get you anything while still
They could even play onto that, and they could make it to where he's like swirling a whiskey in a glass, and Alfred says like, I don't know why you do that. You don't even drink alcohol. Or like to kind of...
Oh, like as if he still doesn't drink alcohol in this one?
Yeah.
I was implying that he does drink.
Oh, yeah.
But regardless, you could do interesting little twists like that. Like maybe there is a glimmer of the Bruce Wayne that we know.
So
but like his parents are alive and well,
Right.
is what I was originally getting at.
Yeah. So like I essentially have the same opinion that you do for this version of Batman, like your pitch. The only things I would personally do or like tweak. So like take almost just about everything that you said. But one, instead of Bruce being a mobster, he's still like, he's wealthy, he's got Wayne Enterprises or whatever. But he just has this weird, this is going to be a weird way to put it, but it's kind of how I would depict this version of Bruce Wayne. But it's like a weird kink when it comes to like saving Gotham, because like he funds like organizations that help clean up the city and like do good for the city.
Right.
But there's a part of him deep down that really wishes that criminals could just get like he wishes that they would be punished more. And so when he encounters this version of Jason Todd, which this version, when he tells Alfred that he wants to meet this person, they would meet, and he kind of says like what you're saying, and then he just randomly throws in, like, maybe in a conversation, Jason's like, I want to scare them. He's like, I want something that can really terrify them. And Bruce just throws in, how about a bat? And he's like, why a bat? And Bruce says, they scare me. So like just another thing that like throws in Bruce's, like, it's still the same Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
But like his weird kink when it comes to like crime fighting is like he gets to like help punish these bad guys with his money that is like well earned and well used.
Mm-hmm.
But he does like, but knowing that like on the side without anyone knowing, there's this man that he's hiring to like punish bad guys is like a weird fascination for him.
Okay.
And it kind of shows, and Bruce mentions that like, although he doesn't know how to put it, he feels like he was always meant to do what Jason is doing. He just never had the right push.
That, I think that would be an interesting thing for like later, like as they develop Bruce Wayne more.
Well, right, but like how interesting would that conversation be if he's like, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of jealous. I always felt like I was supposed to be doing something like what you're doing. I just never had the right push. And that's also a nod to Joker, always saying like all it takes is one bad day.
Right. Or maybe kind of like what you're saying, like as simple as like when I was your age, I almost went out on the streets.
Yeah.
But instead of him having like one bad day, it was kind of what I was implying earlier. Like maybe he's like, and then I made a deal with Falcone and he saved my life or something like that. And that's what brought him into like the mob world, because he's in a way following his dad's footsteps. That way of like kind of being on like the right side of Falcone. And
I would just say that my take still, he has some kind of like limit. Like, oh, I would still like never do this.
Mm-hmm.
I would never taint my father's name. Or like maybe it gets to the point to where Jason wants to kill someone and Bruce is like, don't. He's like, if you do that, we're through. And he's like, why do you care? Like, you're not doing it. And he's like, I don't care what you do to them, but don't ever take a life.
He's like, that's the line.
Right.
Yeah, I could get on board with that. But I just think a version of Bruce Wayne where he doesn't have money, but somehow he's smart enough to invent like
Everything
with nothing.
Mm-hmm. It would have been more interesting if all of his gadgets showed that they were very DIY, I guess. Like something about them seemed like as if people could make them in real life.
But it doesn't come off that way.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, it would have been really interesting if he did have these cool gadgets, but like there was a flaw in the fact that they are manufactured in a garage or in like a random space on top of an abandoned building.
Right.
Like it looks like as if they're not well developed, but they're good for what they are. But that's not what they did. They made technology that makes no sense, and it's just weird.
Yeah.
Like, I know we're talking about a world where there's like Kryptonians and Amazonians, but still, like, if you want this Batman who's like grounded and edgy and stuff, it just doesn't work with a version of Batman who, like you said, it's one or the other. It's rather he's like really rich or he has nothing at all. Don't try to do this weird in between.
Or same thing with like killing people. It's like you don't, you rather you do kill people or you don't.
Because I watched the YouTube channel Variant Comics, and they cover a lot of the Absolute Batman stuff, and I'm pretty sure they mention the same thing when it starts to get to the point to where it's like he may encounter a lot of money or something. It's like, doesn't this kind of defeat the whole purpose of this Batman? I could be wrong. It's been a while since I watched the video, but they kind of talk about how they're walking on this weird line that kind of like doesn't make sense.
To sum it up, I don't buy it.
Me neither.
I'm not sold on this version of Batman so far. And I don't care if anyone has an issue with that, because I've been a diehard Batman fan since I understood what a comic book character was.
Yeah.
So, Ligma.
Yeah.
I don't. That's, like I said, they did great with Wonder Woman. They got really close with Superman. Smaller things that I would change.
There's still hope for Superman.
But
though.
I'm on board with this version of Superman. It's just, I'm even on board with Martian Manhunter in a way, and I'm on board with Flash.
I'm very interested in the Flash.
I'm just not on board with Batman.
Yeah.
Like
I did have an idea. I told Aaron about this on the side, but I came up with my own idea for an Absolute Plastic Man, which was supposed to be like a horror story. But anyways, it's probably not something that we could talk about in this episode. I don't know if it's something that we'll talk about in the future, but I think like this is...
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm just having this thought, and I want to say it before I forget it. I think I have a better idea of what they should have done with Waylon Jones.
What's that?
Because you said he was like a boxer.
Yeah, and he owns a boxing gym.
No. I honestly would have just leaned into a slightly different version of like the old-fashioned Killer Croc, where he got his skin condition way later in life, and maybe due to something else. So like maybe he was a boxer, a well-known boxer. Maybe he was known for like being like really handsome and like almost like a celebrity in Gotham or something like that. And you know, similar to like the original Joker and Batman, like maybe something is caused by Batman that like gives him this, that changes him from like a handsome man to like this grotesque looking guy who survived this particular incident, and it like crystallizes his skin or something. And he's like, people start hating him, and a lot of people don't recognize him anymore, and he literally gets like thrown to the curb, and he gets found by I always forget what it's called, but like the lead in like a circus, and
The showman.
yeah, the showman or whatever in a circus, and she's like really charming, but you could tell she's like kind of manipulative,
Yeah.
kind of like that typical showman thing in a circus.
Yeah.
And she like takes him in and she shows him to like all of her other freaks and scary people and all of the circus acts and so on and so forth. And it turns out this is their version of Harley Quinn.
Oh,
But she's kind of like her own.
person.
Yeah.
Got it.
But like the similar animated like version of her is like a persona.
Mhm.
And then when she's on her own, she's very dark and serious, so that her and Joker way later down the line would be very similar.
Honestly, it's a little more simple, but what I personally would have done with Waylon Jones is I would have made him like he like works for like a lower level street gang,
Okay.
and he's the muscle of the group. Like
Right.
they rely on him to protect like their boss or whatever. But they call him Killer Croc because one, he does have a killer punch, and two, his skin is like so conditioned that it's like leather around his hands,
Right.
and they're just like, it just doesn't seem like anything can like pierce him. And
That does kind of ride on like a Tombstone vibe, though.
well, kind of like like a Luke Cage or Tombstone thing where they're like he's got like skin of like stone or whatever.
Yeah.
And but like later on down the line, he kind of just like he wants to find a way to go up, and maybe they were friends like just like before, like maybe they all grew up together, but he just went down the wrong path. And maybe it gets to the point where he goes up against Batman, but he wants like something to give him that edge to like, because Batman does also have a killer punch, and it just doesn't like they like clash too much. So he wants to give himself that edge, and he takes something that has like reptilian formula in it, and it kind of just like makes his skin like more scaly. His
I mean,
teeth a little sharper.
I think that goes a little bit more fantastical than what they're trying to go for. Some of these villains.
Yeah, but it's gonna get there eventually.
Yeah, that's probably true, and it doesn't seem like it's totally outside of the box. But it's better than like just a guy who owns a crocodile
Yeah.
who's called Killer Croc. It's like that's
You know what I'm really curious about though?
it's like hire us. We'll fix it for you guys.
What I don't understand is, so based on this version of Batman and like how they really emphasize how big and strong he is,
Yeah.
what's Bane gonna be like? Because the whole point of Bane is supposed to be like super intelligent, super strategic, and like just like he's got all this brain, but on top of it, he's got a body and like this strength that's unmatched.
I think it would be cool if Bane was like a result of a crossover between rather Superman and Batman or Wonder Woman and Batman. And here's my pitch. Rather Superman. Bane is a peacemaker, a former peacemaker who meets up with this version of Brainiac, who volunteers into a program by this version of Brainiac or like Lex Luthor or something. And they're like, we got to fight fire with fire. We're going to make whatever this guy is. And they like try to make a human man-made Kryptonian. And it results into this big malformed monster that's Bane. Or switch that around. It's a crossover between Batman and Wonder Woman. And it's like this guy who just escaped prison. And he's like fighting to survive, so on and so forth. And then a demon approaches him and is like, let's make a deal. And then he possesses him and he becomes this big...
Maybe the demon's like, if you drink my venom, I'll give you like strength and power beyond your wildest dreams. And then he drinks the venom,
Right.
which is obviously a nod to like the main continuity.
And he just becomes this monster.
And then he finds out that the downfall to drinking the venom is that in order for your body to like function properly, you have to keep taking it. And the more you take it, the worse your body gets. So then it adds in like this drug effect.
I would even go further in he was like I don't know. This is me just spitting shit from the top of my head because I haven't thought much about this, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But hear me out. This is like really dark thinking.
Okay.
He was framed in an incident that got children killed. When he makes a deal with this demon, unknowingly that this demon was like a prior child killer or something. So in order for him to heal and survive the process, he has to eat children.
Jesus.
Yep.
I can't really say anything because I have a character that's written to where it's a demon that feeds on infants. Blame a friend of ours for that.
But I'm just saying, like, I think to sum it up, they missed the mark with Batman.
Yeah. And they did the same thing in the past and it worked way better.
And Alfred should be Deathstroke.
Or
Slade Wilson.
Yeah, it should have just been Slade Wilson. It would have been way better. It would have worked much smoother.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand how this version of Alfred is going to become. Well, they did. They made it to where they're starting to work together.
I don't know.
But it just seems forced. It doesn't seem likely.
Yeah.
Like if someone shot me in the face with a non-lethal shotgun, I would not become their friend.
Let alone be his sidekick.
Yeah, no.
It's like you might as well just bend over at this point.
Oh my god, how are they going to do Robins? Oh,
I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, but I think we made this joke in the past, but just hire us.
Yeah.
There was what episode was it? There was an episode we were like, "Oh yeah, just hire us. We'll fix it." Oh, we talked about how there's like a whole series we could do about things that we think we could do better. We brought that up.
Did we actually bring that up, or
No, we did. I just listened to it. Like in the first episode, we talked about how we think we found a better way they could have done Jane in the office. There's the Batman thing.
Yeah.
There was There's a couple other things.
No, I know we've talked about that before. How there's like some franchises or things that have happened in movies or shows, and we're just like, if they did this, like this could have saved it or whatever.
But what I was going to bring up, and again, we probably wouldn't have time today to talk about it, or if we even talk about it at all, but it's one of the very few times lately, like, I love both DC and Marvel. I think they both have a lot of great stuff. I think both of them have kind of been slacking lately when it comes to creativity. I think they're like running out of ideas. Mm-hmm. I personally think someone should just I think they should kind of just like take the breaks and maybe just let something else take over. But I will say that out of this new competition that Marvel and DC are doing, I'm more gravitated towards Marvel and their new Ultimate Universe.
I would say, I don't know.
Well, because like even though there are some things that I'm like, oh, that's a weird decision, there's not a lot from the Ultimate Universe. Which, so by the way, so we brought it up in the beginning of the episode, towards the beginning, but the original Ultimate Universe was like, oh, what if we made Marvel characters now? Mm-hmm. The new version of the Ultimate Universe is kind of like, has a theme kind of like the Absolute Universe of DC. It's what if these heroes never existed?
Right.
Because the creator, the evil version of Reed Richards, he wanted to make his own universe that in a world where all these superheroes who could stop him never existed.
It's starting to sound a little similar to.
Yeah, but one did it before the other.
I know.
And he also made it to where all of his competitors, like Tony Stark, Victor Von Doom, and all these people, another version of Reed Richards, they all got like the short end of the stick when it came to like publicity and all this stuff. Like they blamed Tony Stark for like a terrorist attack and
Right.
all this stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things that the Ultimate Universe is doing with characters. Their Spider-Man is fucking awesome.
He's the best part.
Yes, but I'm a huge fan of what they're doing with Wolverine, or should I say, the Winter Soldier. I think he's cool. I think his story's cool.
I've taken a long, hard look at that lately.
I think he looks cool.
I don't like what he looks like.
Oh my god!
I think what they were trying to go for with like the star on his suit that kind of looks like an X just looks weird, and it doesn't look like a star at all.
I think it looks cool.
I think the whole like full face mask thing is kind of like it's like an aged trend.
That's more of a nod to the Winter Soldier, though. Both the star and the mask.
Yes, but the mask, they could have made it look more like the Winter Soldier without doing the rest of the Wolverine mask.
Yeah, but then he would just look like...
What I'm just trying to say is that like his whole face being covered, it's like an aged trend that they did for a while in like essentially the same time that like New 52 was being done was like the age where they tried to like modernize the looks of a lot of characters, and some characters got like new masks and suit changes and stuff, and or even like I'd say DC's probably known for it more, where they tried to like reintroduce a character, but they're like edgier and they'll have a mask.
Like who?
Jason Todd.
Oh, well, yeah.
But I'm just... Actually, that's what that reminds me of the most. He reminds me of Red Hood for some reason.
Well, the Winter Soldier and the Red Hood story is like almost identical.
Yeah, but it's Wolverine now. And
yeah, but the way they told it is so cool.
I don't know.
It's kind of sad, too.
I don't care for it, though.
Well, anyways, all I'm saying is that, like, I think when it comes to Marvel and DC, the most interesting that's happening is the Absolute Universe and the Ultimate Universe. Everything that's happening in main continuity, because I'm following both.
Yeah.
The main continuity for Marvel makes no sense because they have one continuity that they're saying is the main continuity, and then they have everything else that's happening that's apparently main continuity, but somehow has nothing to do with the other thing that they're claiming is main continuity. Because they have this whole vampire thing going on right now. And it's gnarly. It's dark. It's fucked up. And they're like, this is the main continuity. This is actually happening. But then they have other stories that are happening on the side where they're like, oh yeah, this has affected these events. And it's part of main continuity. But if you read these comics and you didn't know about the vampire thing, you would have never known that the vampire thing is happening. But it makes no sense.
I personally hate that they're giving Miles Morales like every single superpower.
He's also a vampire now.
I know. And he's also getting like a new suit, and then there was...
He gets like a new suit every month.
There was like the Aliens and Marvel crossover that they did.
Yep.
And
Miles got the symbiote xenomorph suit.
Yeah, that was actually looked kind of cool. But
it looked cool, but like Miles just gets everything.
I know.
And it's something that I mentioned in a Spider-Man video in the past. But like they give Miles Morales so much, and it kind of makes you think like, why didn't Peter get the same treatment?
That's not how I think of it. I think of it more like it defeats the purpose of Spider-Man.
Oh, no, for sure.
Like Spider-Man, yeah, he's given these crazy superpowers and stuff, but he's also like at a level where it's still impressive when he's able to like defeat all odds with what he's given.
Yeah.
And if Miles is given every single superpower,
Yeah.
then it defeats the purpose of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And he's not even a spider anymore. He's a vampire, and I saw something with him like fire.
No, so he can make a sword, like a broadsword
Oh
made
my-
out of lightning or like
That's-
electricity.
That's stupid.
He has. So if he doesn't use his web shooters, he has energy webs. Like he can literally shoot out these energy webs that look like solid beams of light, but they work like webs.
Why?
Great question, I don't know. Like what was unique about Miles was that the spider that bit him had like slightly different genetics, giving him slightly different powers that made up for other abilities. Like he
Yeah.
wasn't as strong as Peter or as durable, so his body found ways to protect itself, like invisibility or a defense mechanism like bioelectricity.
Yeah.
But now, not only can he do all the things that Peter can do, but he can do way more. And it's almost like there was no point of like Peter in the first
Yeah.
place. And like Peter's so undermined, and that Marvel's throwing like all the worst writers at the main continuity of Peter Parker. He gets like the worst stories now. He gets the worst outcomes.
That's always kind of like the scary thing about comic books is like imagine making this character that could like change the face of the comic book industry. And just for other writers to take over somewhere down the line and ruin it.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is such a great idea. And Marvel fans are like, no, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then Marvel ignores the advice and they just keep going. And they're giving events to each individual character, making it to where like, oh, this massive thing is going to change the character. But somehow this all works in one world where it doesn't collide well and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Well, and then DC, on the other hand, they're focused on more like group stuff. And like, I feel like everything that happens in DC is a catastrophic event. There's no more like these special events anymore. Every single series is like, it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like they're just running out of ideas. They're throwing in as much as possible so that they can own as much as possible. But that goes for Marvel too. I think they just need to start fresh, and I think someone else should just take.
But that's
the
also
reins.
that idea of the starting fresh is always their mentality when they try to do things like the Ultimate Universe, or when they try to do like DC Rebirth or the New 52 or the Future State.
But
It's
then
like,
they come up with excuses to like catch it up really fast.
rather catch it up or just end it and go back to what they were doing before.
But that's why I like the new Ultimate Universe for Marvel, is because it does feel like they're starting from square one, but there's a lot of characters who aren't jumping the gun. Like Spider-Man feels very fresh again. It feels like we're back to the Peter who's inexperienced and he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's a little older, so he has different things to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has kids and he has a wife and he's a dad. Like when I say a dad, I don't mean like he's a father. I mean like daddy. Like, damn.
I don't want to get too into it.
Yeah.
And I know I've talked about it, ad nauseum with you before, but I actually think I have a great idea for the new Ultimate Universe's Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't think they've done that yet.
They have not. No.
They did do an Ultimate Ghost Rider in the original run, which was pretty interesting to say the least. But I did like a new design. I came up with like a new character, and
Yeah.
I even drew a picture of what he looks like on his bike, and that surprisingly came out pretty good. But I was thinking about doing a video on that, like my pitch for the Ultimate Ghost Rider. But I think the idea is too ambitious, and I don't have the editing prowess to do that, because I essentially want to do like a narrative comic book.
Yeah.
But
Kind of reminds me like of the art videos that I want to do, because I want to do, for those of you who might be curious about my channel, I was thinking about starting to do like art related stuff, and I was going to start off with a couple what if stories of my own, like what if Marvel stories. But like a Ghost Rider one would definitely be cool. But yeah, we kind of stirred off topic because the whole thing was supposed to be about the absolute universe of DC. We did cover what we could, because there realistically isn't a lot. It's still a very young and fresh universe, and there's still plenty to come. I'm hoping that there's a lot to talk about the Flash in the future. I know you're interested in Martian Manhunter, but I'm very curious about this version of the Flash. I'm very curious about this new not Speed Force thing. I have a lot of questions, but yeah.
on the other hand, though, because we're getting close to that time,
Yeah.
not that I want to make a whole episode about it, but I do think it would be fun to maybe talk about Invincible a little bit next week.
Oh yeah,
because the first 3 episodes just came out, and
Yeah.
we haven't watched them yet, but we're probably going to this weekend, and we will spread our thoughts on that. I don't think we have any ideas for next week's episode.
No,
But
we're going to talk about the Ultimate Universe of Marvel. No, I'm just kidding.
But we're definitely going to have a topic next week. We're not going to do another sit back ramble the whole time episode, but yeah. Brandon, any further thoughts before we wrap things up?
The Absolute Universe is weird.
Some good, some bad,
Some
some really bad.
Fantastic Four looks cool.
Yes, it is.
Jurassic World, the new weird Jurassic World movie looks weird.
Promising but weird.
Yeah. Go check out our channels at Aaron Something on YouTube and Brandon Hatchick on YouTube. I'm not gonna lie, I'm so tempted to rebrand because Brandon Hatchick is so boring.
It's whatever.
Check us out on Spotify. We don't have a lot of attention on Spotify. But
I mean, if you're listening to it here, that's fine. But
yeah, it's
yes,
definitely an option.
The ways you can help out the channel and the podcast is they're all free. You can leave a like, you can subscribe, you can blare sirens in the background. Leaving a comment or a review, rather here or on Spotify, is a great help. It word of mouth and spreading the word to fellow nerds and people who just need to listen to 2 white men rambling about movies and geeky shit is a great help, and it's the best way to grow the channel. We don't have a Patreon as of yet, so you don't have to worry about giving us money yet.
I mean, we could just, if you want, you could just ask for our Venmos and we'll just give you that.
No,
I'm just
we're not
kidding.
gonna do that. Yes, please, if you're so inclined or want other content, we do have, Brandon does gameplays and walkthroughs, more specifically Let's Plays on his channel.
I will say other types of content will be coming out soon. I'm working on scripts for my ranking videos.
But right now,
Yeah.
if you want to go to his channel and see what he's got, that's what he has up right now.
Yeah.
I just have random nerdy commentary niche topics. Like the last video that I posted was talking about how Spotify not only gives you a Wrapped, but they give you an AI driven and hosted podcast of your interests and the things you listen to.
It's just absurd.
Um,
I just wrapped up Indiana Jones as of this recording day. So the whole Indiana Jones series is out. if you guys want to watch it from beginning to end.
And you will be wrapping up Dead Space and playing new games.
Yeah. Should I say what game I'm going to be playing next?
No.
Oh, okay. We only have one audience member who knows what I'm playing next. But
That's fine.
it's up to you guys to figure out who that person is.
Or just go watch his channel.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
Watch my channel and subscribe.
I think we've been dragging this for too long.
Yeah.
We will see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Peace.